The unitary state winds up either being an apartheid state with second-class citizens, or it winds up being a state that destroys the capacity of Israel to be a new state. Once you have put that frame in your mind, that reality, which is the bottom line here, you understand how imperative it is to get to the two-state solution.
All right, those are the remarks, ladies and gentlemen, that everybody has been talking about. Of course, many, like Senator Ted Cruz, seeking the resignation of John Kerry for implying or saying that Israel will become an apartheid state if they don't adopt a two-state solution. Joining us now is our friend Bill Kristol, founder and editor of the Weekly Standard, ABC News contributor. Hello, sir.
Hey, how are you?
Good. Always look forward to talking to you. All right, so you know, I've called him right along the Palestinian spokesman, but this is even beyond that. This is just unprecedented and abhorrent.
Yeah, I mean, it really is playing into the worst kind of anti-Israel propaganda. And his apology last night was not a real apology. There was a lot of harumphing about how he's such a wonderful friend of Israel, and then a grudging admission that if he replayed the tape, I think he said he'd choose a different word. He seems not to understand. Well, maybe he doesn't care that he really has bolstered around the world, not just in the U.S. and not just, you know, in the Middle East, around the world, people who want to demonize Israel, who want Israel literally to be treated like South Africa. And we know what happened in South Africa. The regime was boycotted, was ostracized, and, of course, eventually fell. So do they want to destroy the Jewish state, basically? I mean, they seem to think it's as unjust a state as South Africa was. The whole thing is so appalling. I'm glad there's been some bipartisan reactions, some Democrats distancing themselves. I don't think they're quite willing to call for Kerry to be fired, unfortunately, but it does show how sort of poisonous what he said is. And
when you take it in context, Bill, and that is, you know, if you go back a couple of months, a warning that there'll be another intifada, which is giving cover to the Palestinians to do just that, warning that Israel will be isolated and suffer sanctions from nations around the world, and that the U.S. will be powerless to control that. And then, you know, and then now this statement, it's a very terribly disturbing pattern.
Yeah, and one tends to sort of discount Kerry. He's so vain. He's such a buffoon in some ways that you figure, well, he's just upset that his peace plan, people aren't falling over each other to adopt it, and so he's annoyed and he's just lashing out. And there may be some truth to that, but the consequences of, even if the motive is not really, you know, deep hostility to Israel. I don't think he's a great friend of Israel, but even if the motive is more vanity and all that, then somehow a desire to destroy Israel, still, as you say, the effect of it in the real world can be very damaging, as the effects of those other quotes were. Now, the degree to which the Obama administration has really moved from being cold to Israel in the first term, I would say, cool to cold to Israel, to hostile to Israel now, is really striking. And, of course, this is all happening with the prospect of a deal with Iran in the next 2 months, a deal which the Israeli government has pretty much said it considers, and I would agree with the Israelis on this, totally unacceptable, not any kind of real cessation or reversal of the Iranian nuclear program. And then Israel is really going to face a huge choice about what to do.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, you know, you talk about Kerry and the way you described him, but is this not just a reflection of the Obama administration? Andy McCarthy at National Review is out with a quick piece today talking about how, you know, this is who Barack Obama is. This is what Obama has believed, hanging around with Rashid Khalidi, hanging around with William Ayers, who in 2010 petitioned, you know, that Israel was an apartheid state. So is this an extension of Obama being reflected in Kerry, or is this both of them believing this? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is. I think Andy's right to say that it's Kerry that Obama probably doesn't differ with Kerry at all about this. But the flip way of saying it is aren't both of them just an extension of contemporary liberalism, or at least the left wing of contemporary liberalism, the left wing of the Democratic Party? The degree to which hostility to the state of Israel, to the Jewish state, has become obviously a key and core tenet on the left. In electoral politics, the elected officials tend to not talk about it as much and tend to shy away from it a little. But when they let their guard down, as John Kerry did, speaking to what he thought was a private audience, what didn't know that someone was in there recording what he was saying, or President Obama when he's hanging out in the old days with Khalidi or Bill Ayers before he, wanted to become or started running for president. Said nothing of Jeremiah Wright. I mean, that is where the left is. I mean, it's a bad thing, incidentally. I mean, it's good, and I'm happy to beat them up for it, and I'm happy to tell people they should therefore support Republicans and become conservatives. And I think there is some of that happening among the last remaining liberals who genuinely are pro-Israel and genuinely thought that liberals today in America could be made to be more pro-Israel. I think that belief is vanishing. It's not good for the country. It's this country. It's not good for the state of Israel either to have, a huge chunk of one political party basically signing on in a kind of European way to an anti-Israel agenda. But it is what it is, and the worst thing to do is blind yourself to it, as many of our fellow Jews do.
I was just going to say, when you
want to see reality,
when you could show me the poll that our own people are turning their opinion away from Obama and saying, hey, maybe we do need a Republican not only for the good of the U.S. but for the good of Israel. I'll pop the cork with you, but I don't see that happening anytime soon. Maybe a few, but not significantly. Let me ask you about the poll numbers out today. We have an ABC News poll showing Obama's approval rating down to 41%, and we have a Harvard study that shows that young adults 18 to 29, only 23% say they will definitely vote in November. That's down 11 points from November of last year, and for a benchmark, in 2010, when the Republicans scored gains in the House, certainly, and took the House, 31%. That number was 31 for youngsters definitely getting out to vote. Now it's 23. So it doesn't bode well for the Democrats at all.
No, I'm sure the Democrats will work hard to get that number back up towards 31, and they'll be calling and mailing and visiting those young democratically leaning voters. But I'd say two things. I mean, one, the Obama number is bad. The Obamacare number is bad for them. Traditionally, the president's approval rating correlates very highly with how his party does, especially in a sixth-year election. So I think things look good. I've always thought that for Republicans this November. I also think young voters have always struck me as the part of the Obama coalition that would be the easiest to pry away for Republicans. I mean, by definition, they're young. They voted once or twice. They're not set in their ways. It's hard in other groups that have been Democratic for decades, let's say, including our co-religionists, they just tend to move much more slowly. But young voters could be quite volatile. So I really hope Republicans focus on that demographic, not by pandering to them at all, but by honestly making the case to them for why conservative policies will create a better job market for them, a better society for them, better schools for their kids when they have kids, and so forth. And I really think it's an opportunity. I do think the Republican candidates running this year, too, are going to be more attractive to younger voters than has often been the case in the past. A lot of them are pretty young. In Nebraska, Tom Cotton in Arkansas is 37. In Nebraska, there's a 39-year-old running against a 41-year-old. Joni Ernst in Iowa could be the nominee. She's 42. I just think the whole look of the party will be better, not because of some kind of affirmative action recruitment, but because these people are just coming forward, and it's heartening, really, if you're a conservative, to see quality younger candidates really across the nation.
Bill, now I've been telling everybody I'm going to get Bill Kristol to weigh in on the Sterling issue, which was determined today by the Commissioner Silver. So Sterling, Silver, Kristol, it's like an aisle at Tiffany's. I couldn't wait to tell you that. Anyway, we got about a minute left. I know that you've had a take on this from the beginning, saying basically that there's a hysteria going on about this.
Well, look, the guy seems like a jackass, and God knows what's going on with him and these girlfriends and whatnot. But and I'm, I certainly deplore what he said, and he works for he owns a private organization that's part of another bigger private organization, the NBA. I guess they can do whatever they want. Honestly, I don't really have a strong opinion about that. I do think the degree to which we now just react, though, unbelievably sort of fiercely and suddenly and with great concern to one or two statements made randomly by someone that don't seem to have, and at the same time, we're not as serious as we should be about people's behavior. I mean, if people discriminate, they should be, that's against the law, right? But if people pop off to a girlfriend or an email or something. They could be jackasses, but I get a little nervous when there's this kind of mob hysteria about that. That's what, and then you can say, well, it's just the private sector. We're not talking about,
Right.
Still, a lot of the blacklist in the 50s was private sector, right?
Gotcha.
So I get nervous when people get punished for speech.
Bill, thank you, sir. Always a pleasure to speak to you, my friend.
My pleasure.
Bill Kristol, ladies and gentlemen, Weekly Standard, of course, founder and editor, and ABC News contributor. We're coming back with more Steve Malzberg Show.